Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first seminar of the fall 2022 of the Institute of Transportation Engineers, York University, the student chapter, ITE, as you know, ITE York U. For those who are graduate students, this one does not count as a seminar credit, but don't worry, we have some others for you coming. Um, and yeah, but I hope you actually enjoyed this seminar. It's going to be the first one of a lot more that we have during this term and during the year. We all know that university is a place of light, freedom, and the perfect environment for learning, but sometimes we forget that it's a perfect place for networking too and start planning our future beyond the campus. Our professional lives begin at the moment we start as undergrads, and we use the university as a tool not only to improve it, but to train it. As a community of transportation professionals, it's our mission to give the opportunity to grow and be in touch with all these things and benefits that the academic life has to offer you. And York University is not the exception, I would say. Today we have two speakers that can talk about this better than me, for sure. Dr. Kevin Gingerich and Eric Nevland. Welcome to this seminar and thank you for dedicating your time to talk about your experience at York and outside York as part of the transportation community. So we're going to start with Professor Gingrich, who is an assistant professor in the Department of Civil Engineering with a focus on transportation studies. He received his PhD in civil engineering from the University of Windsor. His research interests include transportation network modeling, freight transportation, GIS spatial analysis, and discrete choice modeling. He has previously completed projects for organizations such as Transport Canada, MTO, and Union Gas. His research work has been disseminated in widely respected journals, including Transportation Research Part C, Emerging Technologies, the Journal of Transport Geography, and Transportation Research Record. Last but not least, Dr. Gingrich has been the ITE faculty advisor since 2018, and we thank you for that, Kevin, and welcome you to this seminar.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Adonai. Happy to be here today. I guess I will. Okay, so hopefully you all can see the screen that's shared right now. I think it is a good thing that I'll go first because some of this stuff will tie into Eric in partway through into my presentation. So yeah, thank you everyone for coming out. This presentation, I wanted to make it somewhat interesting. So I think there's some stuff that I haven't really talked about in presentations before. I'll kind of go through some personal history of mine that ties in with the academic system and kind of my education that leads up to my involvement with ITE. So what I want to do is go through a little bit of quick personal history. Then I have a few slides on ITE, although I'm not necessarily going to focus on all the different things that ITE offers in this part of the presentation. We could talk about that afterwards during a Q&A if there's more questions that I'm sure Eric and I can talk more about ITE. And then the latter part of this presentation, I just wanted to talk a little bit about some academic tips that I think are useful for both undergraduate and graduate students that I've found based on my experiences as a student and some of my observations as a professor. So I'm actually going to start before my time and actually before Queen Elizabeth II's time at the beginning here. I don't want you to read through this, but this is an article that talks about one of my ancestors. So this would be my great-grandfather, Abraham Gingerich. And what it's talking about here is some work that he had done to bring electricity to his farm. This was in 1912, before it came to the area where he lived. So to do that, he basically used a creek that ran through his farm and channelized that creek and put in a water wheel that derived power there. So this was before there was power generation in that area. He was he was running that through his farm. So interesting. One that was one of my ancestors that was doing some civil engineering work. But also interesting to me that he didn't have any formal education. This would be someone who didn't have even a high school education at that time, but was still able to do quite a bit of ingenious work at that time and show a lot of, as it says in the article, entrepreneurial spirit. So something for us to think about too is, what value do we get through education in our academics? Just a quick other point here. It also talks briefly about my great grandfather who built wagons in the 1800s. So there's my kind of old transportation connection to my ancestors. Okay, so when I was taking high school, this is one of the classes or a similar class that I would have taken in grade 10. And this is actually the first time that I learned about engineering. I find it interesting that in a lot of cases, existing engineering students learned about it because they had family that were engineers. In my case, it was really valuable to me that our high school system basically educated me on an engineer and what an engineer does. So it's important for us to think about a lot of the K to 12 education that we have or that we can get involved with. I know Adonai has been doing some help or plans to do some help with some K to 12 education. So that's a really important component for us to keep in mind and pass along to educate younger people about engineering and transportation engineering. When I went on to do my undergraduate, so I went to the University of Windsor and did co-op. I was fortunate that my first co-op job was in transportation. So I worked for the city of Windsor in their transportation planning. This was, I was again fortunate here because I think I was planning to do something more structural engineering before I got this first job. So this was something that got me really interested in transportation. Some of the elements that we can see on the slide here are elements that I had worked on. So during my term as a co-op student, I worked on the road safety report, I think 2005, so older than the ones they have now listed on their website. And also did some work following up on this bicycle use master plan you could see listed down there at the bottom. So really just an important stepping stone for me to start to understand and get interested in transportation. So I did my undergraduate and my master's. At the end of my master's, I did the ITE Toronto and Hamilton and Southwest Ontario presentation competition. So this was kind of my first interaction with the ITE group. I know we have a few people on here that have given presentations in this competition in the past. So this is one of many events that happen every year with the ITE organization. So I found this to be a really valuable experience and start to connect with peers at other universities and with industry people. So you can see in the image there, two longtime ITE members, including Mark Jameson and Sean Nix, are listed out there. So you get to meet and interact with these different professionals at these events. And we'll probably see this come up a few times, but highly encourage everyone to go to as many of these types of events as you can, because networking and connecting is very important for our personal growth and our professional growth. So after my experience with that event, and I was learning more and more about ITE, when I started at York University, it was one of the things at the top of my mind to do was to help form an ITE club here. So we held an information session in 2018. So a quick shout out to, again, some ITE members that are listed out there that came to our campus for the first time. So this was Farhad, Sean, and Jason, who are all, again, longtime ITE members. So they helped give information about the club and Soon thereafter, Eric was elected as the president of our first year with the club. So big shout out to Eric, who helped set up a lot of the first files for this club. So the charter, bylaw, all that stuff, the logo, all of those things that we needed for the club to start up. So just briefly, there's a pamphlet here that talks a little bit about ITE. I'm not going to go through it at this point. For those that are in our ITE club this year, this is something that CIT is willing to kind of adjust for us and personalize a bit. You can see a little bit of York U personalization there already. But yeah, they point out some of the big benefits of joining ITE. So growing your career, building out your network, developing your skills, all really important stuff that go beyond just attending class and doing schoolwork. So I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of the some academic tips in a bit. I figured it was good to just give a bit of foundation here on what our undergraduate courses look like at transportation here at York. So we're fortunate that we have quite a few courses for our undergraduate students to take. I think it's quite a lot compared to a lot of schools in Canada. So we have core courses in the third year for transportation engineering, transportation planning, and then a number of fourth year electives. So the pavement materials, simulation modeling, freight transportation. These are all giving really good follow-ups to those initial third year courses. So it gives quite a bit of information, but it's still just really scratching the surface, and maybe something that Eric will talk to about how much he had to learn outside of academics once he graduated. But especially in our undergraduate degree, there's so much to cover in civil engineering that we give a pretty good foundation of all the subdisciplines, but it really is just a starting point. So it's important for us to learn and grow from there. And if you're choosing transportation, if you're getting a job, you're usually looking at either public sector, which is what Eric got into, consultancy, or a contractor, which is going to focus more on construction. Or you continue and go further into graduate studies. Since I'm talking more about the academic side of things, I did want to focus a little bit on graduate studies, just to emphasize that I think it gives a really unique opportunity where you have time to learn and improve yourself. Once you're in the workforce, typically you're being paid to do very specific tasks, and you don't necessarily have much time available to kind of learn and think and do things outside of the box. You start to get very constrained. Depends a little bit on the job. Some are better than others, but grad studies is a really good opportunity to learn and grow. You have the time to gain more expertise and to gain additional learning skills. So that's one of the benefits of graduate studies. The last few slides that I have here are just going over some academic tips. So these should be useful for everyone on the line who are currently students. I'm starting off here about if you hope to get a job, because that is why a lot of people do get into academics. It's with the end goal to get a job outside of academics. So a bit of information here about that. One, plan ahead. If you want to get a job once you graduate, it's good to start kind of planning right now about what types of things you might need once you are graduating in order to land a job and be successful in that job. Learn software and skills in our transportation industry. Software is very important to us. I find it to be a useful kind of foot in the door to have hiring people start to look at you seriously, not necessarily hire you, but to actually give you a shot. It's good to have kind of the core software that we use in transportation, as well as some of the skills associated with some of the things we do. So learn about what those are and start to kind of plan ahead to learn some of those things, even if it happens outside of your coursework. Attend industry night. Our club is again this year going to be helping organize the industry night later this semester, I think. So this brings in civil engineering companies to come and chat with our students. Some of them are coming to look to hire, but some of them are also just coming to give information. But it's a good idea to start discussing with different companies, discussing with different professionals about what your interests are, learn what these companies need and what they're interested in, and that'll help you plan as well for the future for once you graduate, so you know what they're looking for. Improve your communication skills and make yourself known in the community. So if you're just sending out an email to try to get hired later on, I think it could be very tricky for you. Making connections and communicating with people directly, one-on-one, is usually going to be a much better way to land a job. Joining LinkedIn is a good example here as well. It's being used quite a bit for professionals, some jobs that get posted on there. But it's a good, in quotes, professional social media presence. Sometimes it's a little bit less than professional, but it is used quite widely these days. And again, to reiterate, it's good to start your job search early before you finish your degree, but don't do it too early that you kind of lose sight of your research. But I find that if you're getting towards the end, say you're in your last semester, it's good to start looking for a job and seeing what's out there before you graduate. It can start to seem a little bit desperate. It's hard to not seem desperate if you've already graduated and you don't have a job and you start looking for a job. I think that tends to come across quite a bit. So I think it's useful to be looking and talking with companies before you graduate. In terms of coursework, some general information that I think is useful. Focus on understanding course materials. This is something that we teach, especially to graduate students, that it's not just about memorizing the content that's put forward, but actually understanding what you're being taught. And that'll suit you better once you graduate and get into your career than just memorizing a textbook or memorizing some slides. Learn time management to complete things early. This is a trap that I fall into quite a bit, but time management can be very, very helpful. Communicate. Again, this idea comes up throughout this presentation. It's good to network with people, good to talk with people, communicate with your peers, communicate with your instructors, ask questions throughout your education. That's all really important. Don't focus only on materials that you learn easily. This is one of the things I learned in my undergraduate, that we can focus on the things we do well, but a lot of times it's important that we focus on the things that are coming harder to us. And in fact, we need to spend more time focusing on some of those things. So this is specifically for coursework. It's good to focus on those items that you really have trouble with, because that's what's going to help improve your learning. And the last one, connect theoretical content with practical implications. So in transportation, everything we're doing connects to a lot of examples in the outside world. So it's important to connect whatever you're learning with those things, and it would also be excited, be passionate about the things that you're learning. Because if you're just doing it just to take a course and just to kind of learn for the sake of getting a job later, then it's going to be a lot less fun for you. A few other things: focus on other learning experiences. This is where ITE comes into play quite a bit. So you really only have limited time in class to learn. I think it's really important during your education that you supplement your class learning with additional experiences. Take self-guided courses, register with Writing Center or with Teaching Commons, lots of different groups on campus that offer some seminars to teach you about some specific skills. So make use of those while we have them available to you. And take advantage of online events. Just be careful not to burn yourself out, because these types of things can get a bit tedious if you're staring at your screen too long. A few other things: you just focus on life experiences beyond the classroom. Take advantage of, for example, health insurance that you have as you're enrolled here as a student. Spend time with your family and friends. Travel when you can. As academics, we often get the opportunity to go travel to conferences. So try to talk with people about upcoming conferences. And if you're a graduate student, usually it helps if you have content that you can present at a conference. Normally, if you're able to present something, your supervisors are generally willing to kind of send you to those conferences and help pay for those costs. So those are a good way to both travel and experience new places, but also work on your professional networking, communication, and abilities. There's a few points here about writing your thesis. This is going to be more for graduate students specifically. Don't ignore consistent thesis writing. It takes a while if you're going to leave it to the end of your time as a student. Better to be working on that consistently throughout. Learn how to do a good literature review, something I talk about in my graduate courses. Start early with your thesis proposal. Keep notes while you're completing your research, because those notes become much more helpful when you are writing your thesis. And take advantage of writing seminars on campus. So again, there's resources available to you outside of class that I encourage you guys to take advantage of. And yeah, the last point here is to edit text, re-edit. With a lot of the writing, and I'll actually encourage everybody, undergraduate students, graduate students, and people that aren't students, that it's important for us to focus on quality instead of quantity. So if you're doing a thesis, if you're doing a presentation, it's important to spend time to do really good work on it, produce quality content. And I think that'll help you get noticed later on too, if you're looking for a job, and that'll serve you well in your professional career. So with those tips, that's the end of my presentation.